new tonight from the Iowa State Capitol. Commercial truck drivers in Iowa will soon have to prove they can speak and understand English to operate a truck in the state. That comes after a bill passed just today in the House. Now, the bill follows an executive order President Donald Trump signed last year that increased enforcement of a federal law requiring truck drivers to read and speak English. Now, under federal law, if drivers cannot understand and communicate in the English language, officers can actually remove the driver from the vehicle. Supporters of the bill say more should be done to punish companies for hiring those drivers. Iowa State Capitol Bureau reporter Isabella Warren, she was there today as the decision unfolded, and tonight she explains how this bill could give Iowa the ability to enforce these rules and give a harsher punishment.
Commercial truck drivers moving freight through Iowa would have to prove they can understand and communicate in English. The bill penalizes both truck drivers and the companies with hefty fines and even jail time. The bill would fine drivers up to $1,000 and could sentence them up to a year in jail. Trucking companies could face fines ranging from $3,000 to $10,000 depending on the number of violations. Republican Representative Ann Myers says Iowa has already penalized hundreds of drivers since last year.
I've already mentioned since June of 2025, we've had about 500 drivers that are pulled over in Iowa and placed out of service, but there has not been an enforcement mechanism for keeping them out of service.
The bill would also create a state English proficiency exam. It would also ban trucking companies from hiring drivers who cannot speak or read English. Commercial drivers already must meet federal English proficiency requirements. Democrat Representative Elizabeth Wilson voted yes on the bill. She says the measure holds trucking companies accountable.
I do think that what we need to hold accountable here are the carriers, because it's the carriers that really are the bad actors, taking advantage of people just trying to make a living for their families and do right by their families and be productive citizens.
The bill now goes back to the Senate for approval. If passed, it will go into effect March of next year. In Des Moines, I'm Isabella Warren.